All right, can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, and yes. And if you wouldn't mind, both Spencer and Miles, before you start, if you could introduce yourself, just a little bit about yourself, how long you've been with online school, and what grade you're in, just so the students know kind of who they're working with.
Sure. I'm Spencer, and my brother Miles is on another line. This is my fourth year of Branson School Online, and I'm a senior in high school. And Miles and I will show you some tips and tricks that we've found that will help you be successful with Branson School Online. So I'm first going to show you some tips and tricks about computer organization, and Miles will show you some tips and tricks about making a weekly checklist. All right, so in your on your computer, you usually want to have really good organization in your file directory, so it's easier to find your files and to find your documents later. You can organize your documents in a step-by-step process, so you can have like whatever you are in high school or whatever grade you're in, what semester. Then you have a folder for each subject, so that way you can find each of your assignments easier. And then within each subject, you can name your assignments by week. So like you have like week 14, and then name the assignment. So that way you can find it in your directory, because what the file directory will do, it'll organize all your files by what your first what your name is. So if you have week 1, it'll organize it by week 1, 2, 3, 4, sort of like this. Here's an example of it. On the left side, you can see like week 35, and then it goes down to week 36. They're all different files, but it still organizes it by the week. And here's an example on the right of different subjects within freshman year. So if you also take notes on your computer, you should organize those as well within your file directory. You can add a folder into each subject for notes. So if you want to get very organized, like I said before, you can have subject, the week, and then like note 1. Then I'll hand this off to Miles, and he'll talk about weekly checklist.
Hello? Okay, so first I'll be talking about weekly checklists and how it's important to um, get everything done within your week so then you don't get behind. Okay, so so some teachers do a weekly checklist. I know when I was in middle school, I had a weekly checklist for all of my subjects and was in one full document. But since I moved over to high school, I no longer have that. But the teachers have all of their work in Blackboard for the whole week. And so what I like to do is put all that work into one document and print it out. So then I know that I'm getting all my work completed for the week, and so that I don't get behind. And so you should organize all of your assignments and everything, so then all of your paperwork's together, and so you know where everything needs to be turned in, and so you don't get behind, and like you don't lose track of any of your assignments. And then you should check off all of your assignments that you completed within the week, so then you know that you turn each of those things in. And then, yeah, make a checklist. It's very useful, I think. And then, so here's an example. I mean, it's not that good of an example, but it says, like, so you would put down assignment name, and then whichever lesson you're on, and then you would say if it's a like an online video, or maybe you have to watch a DI, or you have to do a written assignment or something on your computer, something like that. Or you have to do a Compass lesson, and you have to like take a bunch of notes, and then you gotta take a quiz or something. So make sure you are like organizing everything, making it all clear to yourself, and yeah, stuff like that. So, and then this is another example that I like to do is in the Excel spreadsheet, you would make it like what your whole day is like. But so here we would have on the left side we would have like the time within the day. So, and then we would have whichever subject we would start out with. So we would start out with, say language arts. And we would do that for about an hour. And then we would move over to science. And then we would have a DI. And then we would do some more of another subject, and then, have lunch or something. So you need to like organize all of your subjects out, make sure you're completing everything, and keep as organized as possible.
Does anyone have any questions for Miles and I?
And you can go ahead and either type your question in the questions box. That comes to me, and I'll repeat it. Or I'm going to go ahead and, again, unmute the new ones. Go ahead and remute yourself, and then you can just unmute yourself and ask that way as well. So go ahead and, like I said, type, or it usually works best if you raise your hand, and then I know that you're going to talk, and that way I don't talk right over top of you. So while you guys are coming up with your questions, I do have a couple questions myself. Miles and Spencer, you guys can both answer. Sometimes it's nice to have different viewpoints. For your checklist, do you use the computer and type it out, and then do you print it and physically cross off? Do you do it all on the computer? Do you handwrite it? What have you found is the best method for actually creating that checklist?
I like to put all of the subjects into one full document, and then print it out, and then check everything off on paper as your week goes on.
So you print it and then physically cross off?
Yeah.
Cool. What about you, Spencer?
I write all my assignments down for the week, because most of my notes are also handwritten as well. So it's just easier for me to have, I guess, multiple handwritten documents. But I guess either way works well.
Excellent. Great. Okay, I have a question from Jessica. To follow your schedule, do you have an alarm, or do you just check the time constantly?
I usually just check the time constantly, and then once it becomes within 15 minutes or so, you should start, wrapping up. Make sure you, or 10 minutes, make sure you wrap up, put all of your work away so it's all organized and stuff. But yeah, I usually just check the clock.
Spencer, same for you?
Yeah. I usually pay attention to the clock and make sure you're staying on task and not going over or getting behind, because you want to be ahead of schedule and try to get things done earlier if possible. So yeah, pay attention to the time is always good.
Great. Another question from Riley. What do you think would be a good day to put the checklist and schedule together? So what day of the week do you kind of start getting organized with your schedule and checklist?
Well, usually I have my normal DI is on Monday at like 10 or something. So what I like to do is put my checklist before the DI, because I usually have an hour or two to get everything together and what I'm doing for the week. So pretty much putting everything organized and make sure you know what you're doing for the week.
Yeah, I'd say the same for me. I usually get everything together on Monday just because it's the first day of the week, and that's when you know when your assignments are, the first time you know when your assignments are for the week, and you can get it together then first to plan ahead for the rest of the week.
And if it helps from a teacher's perspective, we are supposed to always have our Blackboard for the upcoming week open by Thursday at 4. So that's part of our teacher guidelines. Now, I would imagine there are times that maybe that doesn't get done, but for the most part, as a student, you should be able to plan on by Thursday of the week before, you should be able to access that Blackboard and make that checklist, just if that helps you a little bit. Thank you. Another question. Do you dedicate one day for one subject or one day for multiple classes in smaller times?
I usually like do I don't really do like the block schedule where you do the whole subject in a whole day, because you have some subjects like math where you have to spread it throughout the week and make sure you understand the concept and everything, and you have to do that for every subject. So I kind of like doing individual work for each day.
So a little bit of each class each day?
Yes.
Great. And what about you, Spencer?
Yeah, I kind of do more of a block schedule, I'd say. So what I do is, like, on the days I have the DI for that class, that's the day I'd work on that class. So say I had science on Tuesday. I maybe do some, like, a few compass lessons on, like, Monday, and then finish up the work on Tuesday. So sort of block schedule type of thing. So where you would work on the subjects a little bit before the DI and then finish it up after the DI, I guess. But it's really more of a preference thing, how you'd like to work. Either way works fine, just whatever you like better. If you'd like to focus on the subjects at once or spread it out more.
Great. I kind of have a question to piggyback off of that. And this is something that, since as a teacher, I don't do the homework for every class. So do you think it's better to really be specific with your schedules? So, like, let's say, you're working on math until noon. If you're halfway through a math assignment, do you typically still end at noon and then pick up where you left off halfway through the next day? Or do you find it's better just to finish what you're working on, even if it messes up your schedule a little bit?
I kind of like to finish what you're doing, because if you're like almost done with it, then might as well just finish it, because you know what you're doing at that moment, so then you don't have to come back the next day and finish it. So I think it's nicer to just finish it if you're almost done with it.
Great.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd finish it off too, I think, as well, just because it's fresh in your mind. If you read the lesson that day, it'll be easier for you to finish it that day that you're doing it, rather than doing it the next day, because you'd have to go back and probably review a few terms that you might have forgotten, or you need to review before you the lesson.
Cool. So kind of a schedule is important, but also a little bit of flexibility in there so that you're stopping at logical points on each subject. Any other questions from our new students? Anything else you want to hear from Miles and Spencer? If you think of anything, go ahead, like I said, throw in the questions box. So if you raise your hand, you can use your mic as well. I did have one last question on my end. With the checklist, so we've said that you guys both physically cross it off. You either print it or you handwrite it. Do you have a system of double checking? And that's something I've kind of seen from a homeroom teacher standpoint of kids saying, oh, I submitted that, and then it not showing up in the grade book. So somewhere in there, there's a disconnect between whether it actually gets submitted, or that kind of process there. So do you guys have a process where, at any time do you go in and double check things, or do you just kind of rely on that crossed off checklist?
Like at the end of the week, we usually look at the parent portal and make sure we turned everything in, and make sure, we did it correctly, and if we got a bad grade, then we would send our teachers an email, and yeah.
Okay, so you kind of use Infinite Campus as your double check.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I also check by making sure I sent the email, or I turn it in through Blackboard. It's also a good way to check, make sure you got it turned in. Even though it may be checked on your list, maybe just go back and see if you sent that email, or if you turned it in Blackboard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good step to take. and everything that I've worked with can be double checked. So just like Spencer said, you can check if you sent the email, you can check on Blackboard. In Compass, it's a little bit harder to find, but you can go in and find where in Compass you've submitted lessons or quizzes, that kind of thing. So in any MyMathLab or MathXL, you can see your score if you've completed an assignment. So there is a double check for, in my case, everything I've ran across so far. Another question from Jessica. It's probably not too often, but if you do receive a missing assignment, how do you organize your schedule so you don't get behind on the new week that's due? It's a great question. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I would try to fit it in like during the night maybe, or like after you finish all of your work for the next week, because you kind of don't want to get behind on that work, but you also want to get the missing assignment done. So I would do it maybe at night if you are available, or like kind of at the end of your day, I would say.
Yeah, I think also if you work on the weekend, it's also a good time to work, get it caught up. If you have like extra work to get done on the weekend, you could just do in the weekend as well, maybe Friday or Saturday or something like that. Another time to get caught up if you have a missing assignment, but it's definitely better to get it done before the next week, so that way you don't get behind on that week's work. It's just better to get it done before the following week comes.
Great advice. Very good. Any other questions? Anything else you want to hear from Miles or Spencer? Spencer presented on computer organization. Do we have any questions about organizing your folders on your computer, or accessing them or finding them? If you do, go ahead and speak or type that out, or like I said, raise your hand. Otherwise, that's all I have for questions on my end. Thank you guys for being here, both Miles and Spencer, our presenters, and our new students. We have about 6 of you, so that's been about the average amount of attendees. We will continue these sessions. Our next one will have one left this semester, and that will be on December 6th. So if you want to go ahead and mark your calendar, December 6th at 10 a.m. I don't know the topic yet, but we'll pick a topic and I'll email that out to your homeroom teachers, and homeroom teachers can pass it along to you. If you have any topic suggestions, if you want to reach out to a specific mentor, let me know. I'm Mrs. Nedved or your homeroom teacher, and they can pass it along to me, and we can put students in contact with mentors that way as well. Go ahead, and if you want to have this PowerPoint, grab it out of the handout section before the webinar ends. And I don't see any more questions rolling in. So if you're good, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Enjoy your fall break. If you have questions, feel free to stick around.